We can't hear her.
Welcome. Great to have you here. This is a unique moment. A moment we all face anxiety and loss. We all see broken systems. We all experience the impact of the climate crisis. This is a unique moment. This is a turning point if we choose to make it one. This is a moment to reflect, to learn, to share, and to co-create. And I invite you to contribute. I ask you to contribute. I ask you to partner to fix broken systems. I ask you to join the movement so everyone can step into their change-making power. I ask you to nominate the next generation of changemakers. And I ask you to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your expertise. And I ask you to donate to support changemakers. This is our moment to fix the world. This is our moment to contribute. Today is the day, and you are the one.
Well, I thank you so much, Marie. Marie Ringer, a very close friend of mine and the diamond leader of Europe. She's the leader in Europe, a leadership group member. And she had a long experience in working in the public life and really especially in the environment sector. So again, thank you, Marie. And yes, I agree with you. This is a moment where we all should work together and be certain life will be better, which I believe. This session is Get Wiser, because we think women are wise, and we want everybody to be as wise as we are. But before we start the session, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Iman Bibars. I am from Egypt, and I am the Vice President of Ashoka Global and the founder and the Regional Director of Ashoka Arab World. So I cover, and my team covers the Arab world. I'm also the founder and leader of WISE, Women Initiative for Social Entrepreneurship, co-founder really because Hasina has been with me since 2010, and Laila and Annie and Marie and Anne and Marianne, who are not with us now. But it is a dream and it's coming true now as Hasina and I were speaking. So I'm so happy that we're having all of you together with us. And of course, all their wonderful speakers. I have more than 30 years of experience in women's empowerment in the Arab world and Africa, and 17 years of social entrepreneurship with Ashoka. I am the moderator of this session, which again it's called Get Wiser, but for us it's also redefining success from a gender perspective. I would like, before I even start, to thank my colleagues here. So I thank Mohammed Salim, our IT hero. Mohammed Salim is the one who makes my life easier with the technology. Of course, Claire Davenport, the coordinator of WISE, but also the hero behind all this session. She will be she's the coordinator of the session, and she'll introduce herself later. And I would like to thank all my team in Cairo, who have always been wonderful with me. This event is the largest online event, embracing all who behave what we need. And everyone in Changemaker world. So this event, the Ashoka Summit, really. This 3-day summit is rediscovering certainty, much needed at this historical moment of unprecedented changes in every aspect of our life. So it is really the time, as Maria said, for us to be certain. We believe that uncertainty is not obsolete, but overlooked. These 3 days, it's really a journey from all of you, the participants, the speakers, everyone who's listening to us, towards certainty. And the only way we believe that we can be certain that the world will be better is to share with you Ashoka's leading social entrepreneurs and our partners and their stories, and showcasing that really, if we try, we can all be certain. I hope, excuse me, I hope this session will be such a trip, this session of Get Wiser in this journey. But I also urge you to join the other sessions in our Global South. I would like to say great thanks to UniCredit for making this session and summit possible. Can you all hear me, guys? Yes, okay. So this session, we will revisit and reclaim how success in social entrepreneurship is measured. We have the privilege of having 3 leading social entrepreneurs and Ashoka Fellows with us. I will quickly introduce them. I will not give them the right. They're much bigger than what I will say, but just for the time. So Sue Riddleson, CEO and co-founder of Bioregional. Bioregional is an award-winning social enterprise that develops and implements real-life solutions for sustainability. The One Planet Living Sustainability Framework is also a wonderful new framework that she will talk to us about later, but that has influenced really development, real estate development around the world. And she has been closely and vital and very important member of putting the SDG number 12, which she'll also speak to us about later. Hasina Karbia, the founders of Impulse NGO Network, and she's developed a model to really fight child trafficking, and she managed to change laws in 5 countries in Southeast Asia. She's a great leader, she's a founder, and really, whatever I say, I will not give her enough credit. So sorry, Hasina, I should really have an hour explaining what you have done in this world, but I don't have the time. My new friend, Dini Joseph, founder and change chairwoman of Troja Melo. Dini has worked to change long-standing patterns of outward migration among Indonesian women. She really changed behavior, patterns of behavior. She really changed how people look at women who are migrants and from certain ethnic backgrounds. All of them are much more than this, and they will talk more. Finally, what are the objectives of this session? And I will take a little bit more than I should, but the objectives of this session is to introduce WISE, a global initiative led by the South, but all inclusive of success stories of female Ashoka Fellows globally. Our aim is to change and trigger a movement to reinterpret success and redefine how success is seen. We believe that scaling the franchising model is wonderful, but it's not the only model. We believe that it is important that we talk about scaling up, scaling deep, and scaling out. I am not sure if everybody was listening to me before, because suddenly I am removing this. So why did I remove it? But anyway, scaling deep, scaling up, and scaling out. Scaling deep is when change behavior and patterns of behavior, like what Dini is doing. Changing up is changing laws, like what Sue is doing. And scaling out is franchising and reaching and replicating, like what Hasina is doing. All 3 are equally important, but if your goal is social impact and creating stable markets of humans, but also we want business to flourish. We really need to emphasize and say women do have an impact, and especially social entrepreneurs, and they do also have an impact, and they address challenges. Now, after each speaker, Claire Davenport, the global coordinator, the coordinator of WISE Global, will tell us, will really convey to us some of the questions. So Claire, can you jump in and introduce exactly what you will do?
Oh, hello, everyone. Sorry, I was just muted. My name is Claire, and I'm here to make sure that the session flows smoothly. So you can feel free, if you have any questions for the speakers, to post them in the chat on Swapcard. I'll be monitoring your questions if you have any technical concerns and trying to provide support. And at certain moments during the session, I'll be bringing some of your questions to the speakers. So we really do encourage you to get involved and to post any questions if you have any, so this can be as interactive as possible. And we're very excited to have all of you with us here today. And like I said, again, you can post them either in the chat box or in the question box. I'll be checking and monitoring both. Thank you all so much for being here. We're very excited.
Thank you, Claire. And every time Claire, I will say, Claire, jump in, jump in. Okay, so now we will start by a question to all of you. Each of you has like 1.5 minutes to say it. So I don't know how, but they're scaring me with the time. And I have someone here who's keep on telling me that we're going over time. So Hasina and Sue, you have been with me in the WISE movement, and Dini, you're a newcomer at different levels the last 10 years. How do you see the definitions I just joined work for you? Like, you know, scaling up, scaling deep, and scaling out are new definitions for success, and we want the world to join this movement. So, you know, Hasina, in 1 minute, Sue, and then Denny, we would like you to tell us, how do you see these definitions and how do they work for you? Are they really important to you or not?
Thank you, Wise. First and foremost, congratulations, Iman, for this wonderful initiative and the journey together from 2013. And I think Wise has become a global initiative today with more and more Ashoka leaders joining in and fellows and then women fellows. And Claire, thank you very much. The Ashoka Arab World has just made such tremendous efforts to put all these things together. I really have to acknowledge that. And it's been a beautiful journey. So let me just get back to the journey of redefining success. Redefining success in scaling deep is the most important element of my own experience in getting the impulse model that actually has managed to go deep, because we have managed to transform the kind of understanding that people have to be able to accept change from within. Change from within is an important element of redefining success. And that's how scaling deep of an innovation is all about. And the base of actually bringing in value system and ethical fiber has been the core requirement of scaling deep, because that itself helps us to redefine success. Success cannot happen if we do not scale deep on any innovation, because the trust has to come on board. And that has been my journey of 20 years. Say, an impulse model, scale up, because the scaling up has allowed a lot of imparting and changing laws. And then that's how we went on scaling out.
Yes, I think you're going to delve into your model much more, but I agree with you and thank you so much for the journey. Now, Sue, how does these new definitions of success work for you in 1 minute?
So I can really see, I love the work you're doing, because it's sort of naming something that we do and showing that it's important. So with the scaling deep, when we work on the real life projects, we're winning over the hearts and minds of people to take action on sustainability and to really want to do it with their heart and change their attitude. And then they carry on through their life. And that's so impactful. And then when we're scaling out, where we offer our framework so that other people can do this, we're making it more available to people. So that's another way that we're making impact. And when we're scaling up, it's all very well to do the good projects, but we have to also influence the laws, the policies. And so taking these, the scaling deep and the scaling out, the great examples, and using that to influence the policymakers. So I can recognise we do this in all areas of our work.
Oh, okay. Now with Dini, we talked a lot in the storytelling, and one of the things I would like to ask you is, how does this model work for you? Dini, don't disappear on us.
Yes, thank you, Iman. So those 3 words were like, hello? Hello?
Yes, we
can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Hello? Can you? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I've just arrived on this island. Okay, so for me, actually, to tell you the truth, these words are new for me: scaling deep, scaling up, and scaling out. And when we were talking about what is success, for me or for us, and to tell you the truth, I never thought about what success was, but thinking about this during this trip also, I think what the difference is, like, the way we work is about collaboration. So collaboration is very, very deep within us. And for me, looking back, what is success? Because we are working with around almost 1,500 weavers across several islands in Indonesia, and I'm in the middle of this trip now. Success for me is when I saw one of our weavers, Mary. She's the head of the cooperative. When she was asked what was her life before Toraja Melo, my organization, intervened, and after, and her answer was, when I can walk straight. when I can walk straight, and it surprised me. So to me, her answer, she said, before people used to make fun of me that I was a widow with single mom with one daughter, and I used to be ashamed. But now with weaving, I'm proud to be a weaver. I can make money from weaving. I can send my daughter to school. I can bring a pig to every ceremony. I can now walk straight. So for me, that was success for me, seeing Mary walking straight. So I guess scaling deep is like changing the perception that before she was ashamed, but now she is very proud as a weaver. And scaling up is also we try to convince the people, the government officials, that instead of sending women abroad to work as migrant workers and they come back being raped, pregnant, or even dead, now they can stay home and make money from weaving. And so please do change the law and support them with financial programs. I think that is like scaling up for me in a simple way. And scaling out maybe it's like partnership after partnership, collaboration after collaboration, because we cannot work alone. So we work with different parties across the islands of Indonesia. Thank you. That's from me, Iman.
Okay. So thank you so much, Dini. I go back to Hasina because I cut you out. So if you just tell us, you talked about scaling deep. Can you just say in 1 minute again, what for you is scaling up and out? Because I cut you.
Scaling up for me was getting the laws changed on addressing human trafficking, taking the UN protocol as an entry point, because that's globally accepted. So taking anything which is globally accepted, making countries responsible in ensuring that laws are being adapted along to the constitution of each country, and managing it for India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Bangladesh, in bringing a consensus that these countries will have to see that there is a standard operating procedure. And I'm so glad that managing a difficult country like Myanmar, I would say democracy, and now it is the election, getting India and Myanmar to sign that agreement that repatriation of trafficking is a global humanitarian human right issue, is what scaling up is all about. And that is on real ground that can make change makers after me adapt that to further the work and deepening their success. And scaling out has been that the model today is an open source innovation, that here it is, take it. It is not a franchisee. It is a scaling deep effort, that others can adopt, and they can keep scaling up with what we've already made. So that is very critical for me. And I think women redefining success for me is being able to give that to the world.
Well, thank you so much, because I think what really the three stories, and I'll go deeper now with every one of you, is that the three terms, scaling up, scaling deep, and scaling out, work with all of you. And I think this is what we need the world to understand, that women social entrepreneurs have a great impact. We need to redefine the success, and that in all the types of scaling up, deep, and out, we are really affecting millions of people. So from this is a segue, because I will go deeper in your lives, ladies, to share it with everyone. I will start with you, Dini, and I will tell you, I want to ask you a couple of questions. I will start with one question with each one of you, and then we will hear from the participants, and then I'll ask another question from each one of you. So Dini, you have changed long-standing migration patterns by empowering women, which I think is a beautiful way, and I think really you have a lot to cooperate with Hasina on this. But you also changed the mindset, especially around the identity. And you have changed also biases around gender. I mean, all your work, and I always believe social entrepreneurs do one thing that is simple that changes the world. So I would like you to share with us the strategies you used. What are the type of strategies? Like, how did you manage to change that? Not the activities, but whom did you cooperate with? Did you work within the system? How did you advocate? And again, it will really reconfirm what we're saying about women's way, social entrepreneurs, and how they have an impact. Dini, did you hear me?
Yeah. I did. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So actually, what we have been doing is just using handloom weaving as entry point, but the end goal is about poverty and giving option to women in Indonesia, poor rural women in Indonesia, so they have an option instead of going abroad as migrant workers. And actually, at the end of it is about the togetherness, about the family, because families break down when the women or the mothers leave them. So there is a bigger issue there. And with this, actually, we want to give an option so that they can stay home and make money. And we started working in at the beginning of 2008 for Torajanese women. It's an ethnic group in Indonesia, so they don't go to Malaysia. And then we start working in other areas where women work in Saudi Arabia. So the criteria in choosing the areas where we work in is, first, it has to be the places where there are many women who work abroad as migrant workers. Second, that they have not been helped, or they have not received much help from other organizations or the government. And then the third, of course, they have to have art and culture of weaving or handloom weaving. So that is one strategy to choose the area to work in. And then when we know that the gap is between the community product and the market, there is a gap. What they weave, the market, national market in Jakarta, our capital city, or abroad, they don't like the style that these women weave. So we do collaborative design process. We work together with them to teach them about what the market actually like, without breaking the local rules. Because handwoven textile, I think Hasina can share with me, it's not just weaving a piece of cloth. It has also a function of community law, which weaving is worn during pregnancy, which weaving is worn for funeral, which weaving is worn for wedding, for example. So it has functions, but those we don't break, but we teach them about the international colors, for example. Another simple strategy is, because they don't really appreciate, these people don't really appreciate their own weaving. They look down on their own weaving 10 years ago. We did the marketing abroad, because I'm sorry to say, many Indonesians have colonized mind, because we have been under the rulers of the Dutch, the European countries for many years. They always think what is fair skin are more beautiful, what is liked by people abroad are better. So we did the marketing abroad. We did the marketing in Milan, in Paris, in Japan. And once they see that those people abroad like their own weaving, they start producing, they start even buying their local produce. So those are little strategies, I may say, yeah. And now they're wearing. So the local economy now is moving, because the locals are wearing their own weaving, and also nationally. I'm proud that their income now is double the income. Yeah.
Well, we will have one question for each one of you for 3 minutes, and and I think we will have other questions, and we want to hear the participants. But from what I understand from you, your strategies with the economic empowerment of women so that they don't migrate. You also improve the image of weaving, so people have respect for the weaving. You worked within the system, and you worked with the government, and you cooperated with other Ashoka fellows, and organizations. So you actually did not work alone. And I think these were the wonderful strategies that you used. Thank you so much. We'll come back to you. I need to now ask Sue a question. And Sue, we talked about scaling up in WISE as changing laws, which in fact impacts the lives of millions. Sometimes we say we changed one law or we added the SDG, but we don't realize or present it in a way which means that this will affect millions of people. Can you share how you participated in adding the SDG 12 and the strategies you employed, which we believe is intricate to, again, women social entrepreneurs? In 3 minutes.
Thank you, Iman. So I think the key thing is that when we were working on the projects like Eco Village and products, that was a really good thing. And then in 2008, I heard directly from the IPCC climate scientists that we were going to get climate change. It wasn't that I thought we'd be avoiding it. We'd all be working together to avoid it. So I realized that we needed to do more. And so I looked around for the processes that were taking place, and it sounds like a strategy. It wasn't really. It was a sort of very social entrepreneur finding my way. And first of all, we went to the UN climate conferences, and then I realized this is a very well worked through process. Everybody already has a big agreement they've already started working on. So I think the first thing is just, I'm going to tell the story and give like my ideas of what that means for other people as I go along. So I think the first thing is, it's no good just dealing with the symptoms of the issue. It's good to get to the root cause, to change the laws and the policies, and you can use your work to do that. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing is to get involved in processes that are going on, to look for where are the decision makers, where can you impact, where can you make the most impact? And there are Ashoka processes like a system change course that you can join to help you work through this systematically. So then I asked people help you. If you ask around, people will give you some advice. So people said, well, there's the UN Rio +20 process is taking place. It's beginning now. So great, get involved at the beginning. Nobody funded me to do this work. I was very lucky that we had some core funding, a windfall actually, of quite a lot of money. It was £250,000 actually that we had, and we decided to use that to try to scale up and make a bigger impact. So I recruited a person to work with me who was a bit experienced at policy and working internationally. She'd worked in India. And we went to every single Rio +20 process meeting. And we got involved in this process, and we became part of the team. We showed our wonderful projects, how it can be done. We were winning the hearts and minds. We were scaling deep with the diplomats, trying to change their mind about what was important and what could be done, giving breakfast briefings and side events. So it was very important to let go of our organisational ego and become part of the team. So we were just part of the team that was working on Rio +20, and then when we all showed up at the next meeting, that's who we were. They knew the story behind of our work, but we were all engaged in this mission to achieve an outcome to be announced in 2012. We early on we tried to shape the process. So we had the first event about the Sustainable Development Goals at the UN in 2011 with 3 women who were the women behind the SDGs from Colombia, Guatemala and Peru. And it was amazing, hush. And then it became that the Sustainable Development Goals were the big announcement of 2012, the 20 years after Rio. And then they said, oh, it's going to take us 3 years to work out the goals. Now I'm impatient and the world is in a hurry to become better. So I guess that's another thing, patience. Some of this policy work takes a long time and it can go backwards as well. So then we just didn't have much money, but we carried on. Luckily, my colleague, Freya, she married a Brazilian diplomat that she met in the process. And she was then posted in New York. So we had someone who was in New York and could keep showing up, and we could keep involved in the process, even though we'd spent all of our money. And then the government started to pay us as well, because we developed a track record and they wanted civil society input to this. And we became the NGO global focal point for the SDGs. And we secured for sustainable consumption and production. And we consulted with other civil society groups, so that we had show that there was a consensus. So that I guess that's another thing. It's not just your organisation's view, it's the view of all of those working on your issue and even out not working on your issue. And that shows that there's a consensus. And the diplomats, we presented it to the UN, and the diplomats, the co-chairs of the process said, we've read it, we like it, we're going to use it. And we got goal 12. So that has now impacted
Great.
billions around the world to make sure that we do think about sustainable consumption and production, as well as all the other good things. And lots of other people were working on their issue areas. So it's the closest thing we've got to a plan for a better world. So let's all try to achieve this.
Well, I think, Sue, this is an amazing story because, first of all, you know, you and the teams, and I'll talk a little bit about the strategy here, you have added an SDG, you and the others, which affects billions of people. And I think this is the way, you know, we should really present ourselves sometimes, all of you, to see the impact of scaling up in our definition. Does it take to do this and how it affects? I mean, you talked about collaboration, which again, Dini talked about it and Hasina will talk about it later, but she always does. You talked about consensus, and I love this because you said let go of an organizational ego. And I think this is something that really is very important in our strategies as social entrepreneurs, especially women. Sharing success and working from the background, working from within, again, just like Dini said, and using the same process and not trying, you know, to be, confrontational, and forming a team from everyone. You know, I think this is a strategy that is in our Ashoka survey and in our Ashoka mapping of all our women fellows, but also a lot of the men fellows. This is a strategy that we all adopt. And this is what we need to change and redefine success. You know, how we look at the strategies that female Ashoka fellows are using and social entrepreneurs, but also how they have an impact even by changing one law. Which then brings us to Hasina, before we go into the questions and ask Claire to jump in. Hasina, you, as one of the founders of WISE with us, and you know, you've seen the mapping that we in WISE did, but also the storytelling initiative that we are trying to start, we are always saying exactly what all of you are saying, that we develop certain strategies. Now, that makes us as women social entrepreneurs have a greater impact. Now, you just told us how you had all these agreements with Myanmar and all these governments. I want us to share with us your strategy of doing this. You know, we always see the results of your work and its impact, and everybody says it's wonderful. But how did you collaborate with others? How did you work within the system? And again, this is very important for us.
Scaling out and working within the system is actually identifying a change maker within those systems. So that has been my strategy, identifying change maker within the system, both the private and the public, and ensuring that the leadership role are being used to the ultimate, and hand-holding it with good research. Research work are very critical because it enhances policymaker to agree on larger agreements. So that has been a very important aspect. And the other is ensuring that we identify change makers who are civil society organization in the respective countries that we are working, and hand-holding them. And like I just said, for me, redefining success at every moment, having the resilience to back up, to step backward, and giving them the leadership role in terms of taking an innovation as an application. So that's a very important strategy, because then I said, I think Sue mentioned about letting go of ego. I think I let go of ego 15 years ago. So it's okay for me to sit behind and say, this is a strategy. And if we do this, this is a success, we're going to get it globally. And this is the change, we're going to get it at policy level. So it was a very important consensus that was being created internally by the team. It was validated with a lot of research, and it was consciously applied and with resilience, because it took 6 years simultaneously to get one country, but it got two other countries, Nepal and Bangladesh, to get into a consensus of a working rule. So it has to be an application that needs resilience, needs consensus, that needs data, but consistent. Then we also realized that bigger consultation and events does not really help to influence policymakers. You know, influencing policymaker has to be a one-to-one approach and well-identified one-to-one approach. And we identified all of that. And that brought out us scaling up. And as we scale up, we scale deep in every country. because you cannot just scale up without scaling deep, because every country has its own procedures and legalities. And at the same time, scaling out for us in every country was bringing people together, that the replication needs ownership, and ownership needs leadership. And that leadership needs to be understood, that they need to have the same empathy level, they need to have the same value system, and they need to carry on that value system. So scaling out without a value system, cannot achieve scaling up at all. So that is something that was very strategized. And today, as an organization, as a person who work on all these scaling up, scaling out, and scaling deep, I just wanted to use one word. Every time we scale out, we need to scale deep constantly. And we have to scale up constantly, and we have to tie the thread of all to ensure that a policy is global in action. So that's something that I have applied all through. And we have just created a co-creation model. COVID-19 and lockdown make me go back.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. To start with, I have 2 comments before I even, first of all, who says women cannot? I have these 3 wonderful, and we have 1,800 wonderful Ashoka female fellows, but women can, and women do, and women do have an impact. The scaling out, reaching more people, scaling up, changing laws and affecting billions, and scaling deep and affecting generations to come. Really, we need the ecosystem to understand, and we are showcasing these wonderful social leaders, global leaders actually, who affected millions of people in every direction. But again, I also love what you said, Hasina, identify change makers within every system and working within. And I think Bill Drayton will love this, because in his in our strategy for everyone in change maker world, this is really the lesson that Bill Drayton keeps on telling us when we reach Jiu-Jitsu partners and movers and shakers, that we have to identify the change makers in every organization and become a team of all teams. So I am so happy to have all this. And thank you again. And before we go to the second round of questions, I want Claire, who has been patient, like Sue, and to jump in and ask us the questions that are coming in from the platform, from the chat.
Hello. Yes. So we have one question from Francois Bonici, who works for the Schwab Foundation, and it's not directed to a specific speaker. So anyone who would like to answer can jump in. And the question is, how do we help Ashoka lift this further on the social entrepreneurship agenda in a time where women are so disproportionately and negatively affected in so many ways during COVID?
Wow. Okay, before anybody answers, I just like to welcome Francois and to congratulate him. I heard that he's going to have a book called Scaling Deep, so we're in the same team. But yes, do you have answers? Our social entrepreneurs, like women are being disfranchised. How can we all together as enablers help them? Who wants to answer? We have 1.5 minutes. I love you.
All right. So I think what we need is to globally bring forward that scaling deep is an essentiality. Franchisee is not a solution for change. Franchisee is actually getting the benefit, which is financial profit into your bank account, but non-franchisee model of women, it's actually getting impact. So we need to really bring this differentiating in the world, that impact cannot be validated by financial at the end of a banking account or a financial audit. We need to redefine the way we have auditing system, because if we don't refine the audit system, we will not be able to bring this difference to the world, that women who are redefining success and redefining impact might not bring so much money in the bank or funding in the bank. So we need to really redefine that if we have to show what scaling deep is all about.
Okay. Okay, I will go more into the COVID situation with all of you later in the other questions, but I would just like to say that women across the world, I have 30 years of working with the poorest women in Arab world and Africa, are very resilient. And actually they are, we call them the government in the homes, like the husbands in Egypt and the Arab world. When they say the government, they mean the wives, really. But I do agree with you. I think Schwab and Ashoka and everyone should work together to see where we can support women-led organizations to understand, as Hasina said, how they do have an impact, how women do overcome challenges. We have a lot of challenges, Francois, but we do overcome it. And you will be, I would invite you to come anytime to Egypt, and I'll show you how resilient the women in the rural and squatter areas are. But I agree with you. We need to work together to redefine success so that every organization and donor in the world should invest in women, understanding that it will bring money, but it will also bring stability, and it will bring real changes of patterns of behavior, and therefore stability to the markets and the businesses. And we can talk about this, but I am being, I'm being told that we're running out of time, so that we have to start the other questions. Do you have anything to add, Claire, before we go into the other questions with the speakers?
Yes, there's one more question from the group that just got added. It is, what are the pros and cons of spreading gendered visions of leadership? And how do you encourage men to adopt these characteristics of what you define as feminine leaders? And this comes from Hane Barusho.
Okay, before anybody, we are not saying we're feminine leaders, and we're not saying we have a different leadership style. We're saying we choose different causes, and therefore our methodology is different. But I want Sue to answer this, and then Dini.
So I think as women leaders, it can change the culture of the organisation. And as a woman leader, I've never sort of said, this is a woman's leadership style, it's just the leadership style. And then it becomes the culture of the organisation, and actually the men feel a sense of relief. We are still competitive between us, but competitive as a team, for example, and we're doing it for the team. And the men are more empowered to take down their hours to do 4 days a week for childcare. So you have a young man comes to join us, he's quite a bit macho, and then he sees how the culture is, and that changes, and the men just join in with the culture. And I think it's a great relief for men not to have to be put in this position to be more equal.
Yeah. Dini, do you want to add?
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe the difference between or one of the strategies we have, it's like, maybe it's like a bit of like stereotype, but we do it like a nurturing, very nurture way, like we listen. And then to our community, they're our subject. Like talking back about the ego, we put aside the ego a long time ago and just really treat our subjects, our weavers as the subject. And more, we also doing the three-prong approach, like the mind, body, and spirit. And we have to make sure about the spirit of the safety of this. Yeah. Hello. Can you listen? Can you hear?
Okay.
But I think about the men, like feminine men. Okay.
Okay, guys. So that we have more time. Now we. Okay. Thank you, Dini. I don't know if everybody heard, but I just want to clarify the wise position. We don't think there is a feminine leadership and a male leadership. We are only redefining success. Yeah. We think there is an ecosystem that does not recognize every type of success. And for example, a lot of our social entrepreneurs who are men actually are nurturing, and they believe in each, and they are cause-driven. So I think that most of the men or women who work in social entrepreneurship have very similar traits as human beings. I think only because of the type of the definition in the ecosystem of success, sometimes what women do because they choose certain causes that cannot franchise, that's why we want to redefine success. But I agree with you. Of course, we are nurturing and we're wonderful, but we also love men, don't worry. So, no, to go back to the second round of questions before we lose the time. And I would start with Sue this time. And again, I don't know how many, I think we have also 3 minutes each. Okay, so Sue, the One Planet Living framework. This is a wonderful framework. And I would like us, again, in 3 minutes to share with us, how do you measure the impact of this framework? And how can we as women and social entrepreneurship in general measure our real impact in a way that the mainstream can understand?
Okay, so One Planet Living is this idea that if everyone lived the sort of global middle class lifestyle with the car, the TV, all the things we buy, we would need 3 planets to sustain us. And we're seeing the impacts of that in climate change and disappearing forests. And with a growing population, we've got to share out so that everyone in the world can have happy, healthy lives wherever we live and leave space for nature as well. So One Planet Living is aiming to make, you can use it to make a plan to achieve that in a given situation, like building new homes or for products or companies or for yourself. And so we've sort of set up with 10 principles from zero carbon energy through to health and happiness. And then we have people then make their own outcomes towards that goal. So the principles are kind of like goals. And so the measurement will be different depending on the choices that are taken because it's a local response.
Yeah, well,
so it's very easy to measure carbon, of course. I mean, it's not that easy, but it's easy. So that's very quantitative. But when it comes to the well-being, that's really important too. And so we do try to measure it, but it's impossible for us to aggregate up all of the impact of all of our work. We can take a measurement. Oh, last year we trained 1,000 people to use One Planet Living, which is scaling out. And so they can all use it in their projects. And we can tell the qualitative stories about places. So the way we can talk about impact is also qualitatively. For example, here at the Beds at Eco Village, people know more than 20 of their neighbours by name, whereas in the houses over the road that's not designed to be a good community, they only know 6. And if you know more of your neighbours, it's better for your health and well-being. So we use measures like that, but it's actually really hard to demonstrate that success. So we can do some numbers like carbon, and we can also tell the stories. So I guess that's the way that we talk about the impact. And I think you had a second part to your question. Did I answer that well enough, Iman?
Later, because we're running out of time and I'm being, but I think it's important. What you said is a mixture of quantitative and qualitative. And I think this is also what we want to add to the table. So Hasina, as a leader from the Global South, what can we learn from you? And what can you share with innovators and donors actually in the North, which you really refer to a little bit here? And how can we really increase the visibility of women's impact? Like, you're from the South. What do we tell everyone else in the ecosystem, especially donors and investors, South, but also in the North? How can we make women's work more visible from your experience?
My experience has shown that a lot of time donors come with a lens where the financial attributes, strength of an organization led by both men and women. Now, very often, the style of scaling deep and scaling up and scaling out by women does not really bring in much of investors to put in their efforts to understand that this initiative can actually make larger impact. So changing mindset of donors that when they have to invest on women-led organization, institution across the globe, working on any sectors of framework, they need to go a little bit beyond on the stories behind the impact that is visible through quantitative and qualitative, and not just from the financial indicator. That has been my experience, that every time a donor comes, the first question is, what is your financial fundraise this year? That determines your strength, but that is not a strength. Your quantitative and qualitative impact, the change, determines strength. So that has been one big challenge, to actually communicate, across the table, that we could not raise X number because we are just not franchising the model. We're not just giving away. We are trying to go deeper to change the whole system, change the whole processes. So that has been a challenge, not only that I face, but I've seen women leaders across who've worked have similar experiences. And the other factor is that they should actually relook on resilience on women leaders, in overcoming. And that should be one of the indicator that donors have never been able to really validate the resilience. I think all of us today spoke about resilience. So that is what I would like to do.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I think all wise and women agree with you. And I think it's important that we should differentiate between financial sustainability and economic sustainability. So I think the financial sustainability is how much money are you getting now if you sell 100,000 hamburgers. The economic sustainability is when we empower women, when we change patterns of behavior, when we reduce, wife battering and violence, we have an economy that is stable and businesses that flourish, and this is economic. Before we go back to Claire and maybe to closing the session, Dini, I'd like you to tell me not only the story of Mary, but also two stories. One of Mary's daughter and how she was proud after she graduated, and what does this mean to us about scaling deep, and also how you dealt with COVID.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, again, now in the tribe or the ethnic group of Toraja, they are proud because they see there is regeneration. So I think from the bigger picture that we work for SDG number 1, 5, and 12 about poverty, gender equality, and responsible consumption and production, it goes down to our simple projects actually for regeneration in the weavers community and also in the market. So we also aim for the Gen Z and the young buyers or people in the urban cities to buy the product, to be proud to wear the local product. So Mary's daughter, for example, seeing that the mother can make money from weaving, she start also learning to weave and then can pay her university degree from weaving. And then it creates like a spread of pride, and the young generation start weaving again. So again, it's not franchising, but seeing the real result. And I think it's at the end of the day, again, it goes back to the dignity from SDG, and then working about the body, mind, and spirit. Actually, we care. So maybe this is the difference also on how we do this as Ashoka Fellow, as social entrepreneur.
Okay.
That we care about the safety, the feeling safe of the women we work with, and we have to create that. And at the end, it's
so
about.
I think your story.
About
yeah.
getting back.
No, but I love the idea when you said that Mary's daughter was proud to be weaving even if she graduated. You also said how you worked with COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then with COVID, with COVID, maybe quickly, COVID impact is so big because people care more about the health issues and about food.
So what did you do?
So people are not buying. So when we ask the weavers, how can we help? They say, don't just send us money. We are not like that. Please buy our weaving and then sell them and send the money back. So we did a weaving in the time of Corona campaign, where together with a logistic company, we collect the weaving from all the communities, buy them, and then sell them at a very low margin so that the turnover is very fast. Very simple, but
we have really 5 minutes left, guys. So Claire, do you have a question from the chat? I'm sorry to interrupt you all, but I think we should have 2 hours for a session like this, not 1 hour. You're such great women.
Yes, and I have two quick questions from the chat, and then I think we can move to the closing. The first question is specifically for Hasina. It's from Luisa Josa, and it is, did I understand you right, Hasina, that you see franchising as a strategy that privatizes the benefits of good social ideas and counters the goals of female social entrepreneurs?
Yes, so I would say, franchising is actually taking away larger chain. Yeah, sorry, I'll just repeat. I was on mute. Franchising is a model that limits the role of women leadership and limit change making and limit scaling deep and limit scaling out and scaling up. So franchising model is very much oriented to the financial profits that takes away a replication without any kind of scaling deep. So there's no connect. So there's no partnership. So it's very critical that partnership is an important element of scaling deep. And scaling up, it's also about partnership and collaboration. And it brings on gender equity that I want to promote, that gender equity. I think Y stands for gender equity, not about situations of things that we want to be a feminist group. No, we want to see that we are equal in what we are doing. So if we have to bring that forward, we need to reduce franchising. And reducing franchising is going to impact better and providing women to actually attribute better global change. I hope that answered my question.
Thank you. And really quickly, for a final question, someone would love to hear, Fed and Nisha would love to hear from all of you amazing social impactors, what your advice would be to women who have just started their organization and already see that the climb up is going to take a lot of time and networking, but see that the need for a change is big. I think we have time for one person to answer very quickly.
Co-creates. All new young people co-creates with women leaders who are already up there. And that would means that we will be in here to make things happen for all women.
Yeah, if I may add, use technology, because most of you, the young people, are like native for the internet and all that. Use technology to help you and work together, because you can do it faster than us.
And I just wish you success and follow your inspiration. It will take you to great places.
Don't give up.
I'm mute. I would have loved us to have 2 hours. I would urge everyone who's listening to us to go onto the websites and to look at these 3 wonderful social entrepreneurs. Hasina Kariba from India, Denny Joseph from Indonesia, and Sue Riddleston from England, from the UK. They are real global social entrepreneurs, leading social entrepreneurs. And from what we heard today, they have really proven what WISE is trying to prove. First, that women can, that women are change makers and entrepreneurs, that women are leaders, and that they scale up, which means they change laws and affect millions. They scale deep, which means they change patterns of behavior and values, which means generations to come and again, millions. And they do change out. We can franchise and replicate, but we can do it by collaboration. And I want to insist that WISE is not about feminine versus male or women versus men. It's about the type of causes we choose, and that the ecosystem, the donors need to change how they measure success, because women social entrepreneurs have long-term impact that affects generations and millions. I would really like to thank everyone. I would urge everyone to join the summit, the Changemakers Summit. Any last word from from anyone here? But I also would like you to join WISE and to join our cause and to trigger the movement for women social innovators. One word from each one of you. One word. Denny first. One word.
Okay, now. Keep your dreams alive. Don't ever give up on your dreams. Yeah.
Sue.
Stay true to yourself and how you think things should be done. Because
one word.
Okay.
Hasina.
Whoever is watching this today and who will be watching the video, support, come forward, change your mindset in supporting women's initiative globally.
Okay, thank you all, and thank you, Claire, thank you, Salim, thank you everyone who made this happen. Marie Ringer and the European team and Tito, this is wonderful. Please, all the followers, please follow the other types of sessions. This is time of certainty, and what is more certain than all these wonderful leading social entrepreneurs and everyone in Changemaker world. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Iman.
Thank you all for your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Bye.